Hello and welcome! Believe it or not, we are going to backtest a Fibonacci based strategy. Spoiler alert, it's going to be very interesting and the results are actually quite convincing. Just as a recap, the strategy is setting up price levels based on the first 1 hour candle and then decides buying or selling based on those levels. 2 very important things. Please watch part 1 of this video series, which I will link in the video description. Also, if you want to have more topics like that, I highly appreciate you letting me know by commenting or hitting the like or dislike button. Thank you. Important disclaimer, cryptocurrency and its specific automated trading is bearing a huge amount of risk and may result in a total loss of your invested capital. Cryptocurrencies are not regulated. Concepts shown in this video are not an investment advice. Video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Alright, let's get started. As you see, same libraries as in the previous video. Additionally, we need NumPy for this one. Price pole function here, and as you see, I called it for Bitcoin going back until the beginning of 2022. So we're ending up with a data frame containing 9.2k rows, hourly granular price data from January 2022 until today. And the first thing I'm going to do to that data frame is to add a price column. And the price column, as in the previous video, is just the shifted open. So I'm just shifting the open 1 row back. Idea is I have the open, so the next candle's open where I'm buying the asset in the same row as in the row where the signal is occurring. So I'm going to create a column here, price, and just shift the open 1 row back. And as you see, now I'm getting this price, so in the same row here, which is simply the open in this row. This is this, this is this, and so on. And next we need our get levels function from the previous video. So I'm just going to copy paste that from other screen. So just as a very quick recap, what was this function doing? It is providing me the stop loss, entry, and target profit levels for a particular date. So if I'm calling that for, let's say, the 1st January 2022, I'm getting the stop loss here, the entry here, and the target profit here. Okay? And with that, we have everything what we need to loop over the data frame to backtest our strategy. There's one thing we have to take care of, and I'm explaining you why that is. So currently, I don't have my dates as only date time values. So I currently only have hourly timestamps, right? But I want to loop over the dates only. I don't want to loop over the timestamps, but I want to loop over the dates. Okay? Because I want to pass every date here into this function to get the levels for a particular date. All right? So I need to have an array containing only the dates. So not the timestamps, but the dates. How can I do that? I'm pulling the index, and as you see now I have the timestamps here. And I can just use date, and with that I'm getting the dates. But as you see, I'm getting the date. So just to show you what I mean, I'm getting the 1st January here for all those which contain the 1st January, right? But I want to have an array where I have the 1st January, 2nd January, 3rd January, and so on. So I need to filter for only the unique dates here, because I have basically 30 or 31 January values, 31 January values, 28 February values, and so on, right? So I want to filter for only the unique values, and I can just use NumPy's unique function for that. And with that, very straightforward, I have 1st January, 2nd January, 3rd January, 4th January, and so on. And these are our dates, right? And you might already see the idea, right? Now I'm simply looping over all those dates, and I'm passing those dates to my getLevels function, but I'm only passing that if I'm not in a position. Because if I'm in a position, the, in quotation mark, old levels, so from let's say a previous date, if I didn't exit that position on the same date, I want to use the previous levels. But whenever I'm not in a position on a new date, I want to get the new levels here, right? And this is what we are going to do. We are first of all setting the position flag to false. So this is essentially the same as in the previous video. And now we are using for date in dates and loop over all dates, right? And now think about it. What should happen on a particular date? And let's do it for the first date. Let's do it together. I know I did it in the previous video, but just as a recap. So let's get the data frame. On the 1st January, what is happening? On the 1st January, I need my levels, right? So if I'm not in the position on the 1st January, I'm pulling the first hour candle here. So this one. And based on this, my levels are calculated, right? So the output of my get levels function based on first hour candle on each particular date. Once I got them, I want to loop from this row on. So I want to loop from the 2 hour candle on, because I cannot integrate the 1 hour candle because there is data in it which is needed for the level calculation. Including this wouldn't make any sense. So I'm starting my loop from this row on, from the 2 hour candle on. So whenever I pass a date, I don't only have to consider the date, but also consider that I'm looping from the 2 hour candle on. So I'm taking the data frame, screen for the date. So I want to start my data frame starting from that date on, right? So as an example, if I'm in the second date iteration, I only want to consider the rows from the 2nd January on, right? So let me show you what I mean. So I'm in the 2nd January here. This is my date. I only want to have my rows from this January on, right? Because otherwise I'm looping over the 1st January, and this is not what I want. And what I also need is to only go from the 2nd row on here, right? So with that, I get the data frame starting at the 2 hour candle here for the February. That would be the 2nd iteration, right? In the 1st iteration, I simply have the January and I'm starting at this one. Okay, so I hope I could make this clear. This is how the date, outer loop, and then the inner loop is working, and then the inner loop is basically the same as in the previous video, but I'm going to go over that again to make this really clear. So this is how the logic is working. On every day, I'm looping over the data frame, starting from that date on. So for date and dates, I have my date. And now I'm looping over the data frame for index row in DF. And as I just explained, I'm screening for starting for that given date. And I'm starting after the 1 hour candle. And then provide iter rows here. And now what should happen? First, I'm screening I'm checking if I'm not in a position. I want to pull my price levels, right? I'm defining stop loss, entry, target profit by calling my get levels function for that date. But this is only the case if I'm not in a position, because if I'm in a position, I'm taking the levels from the previous date. So this is only being called when I'm not in a position. Then I'm taking the levels for that day. And now I'm simply checking if my close is above or equal to my entry, then I want to buy, right? So you could print out buy the asset for, but I'm simply appending the buy prices to an empty list, which I have to create here, of course. So buys, sells, where I'm storing my buy prices and sell prices. And let's also create a list here where I have my trade dates. Okay, so if that's the case, if the close is above the entry or equal to the entry, I'm appending to my buys list here. So I'm just taking the price column, right? So the next candle's open. And I also append to my trade dates. I'm just appending the date. After that, I'm setting my position flag to true. And what is happening now? Now I'm in a position. And if I'm in a position, I'm doing the following. If I'm in a position, I'm now checking if is my close above my target profit or is my close below or equal to my stop loss. So I can simply say if my close is above my target profit or my close is below or equal to the stop loss. And the good thing now about this is that this is taken care of, that there is no line hit on a particular date. Because if you code it like this, and let's say you are entering on the 1st January, and you're not getting any hit of those levels on the 1st January, then as you are in a position, this is not applying on the next day. So you're directly going to this part, and for the 2nd of January, because you are already at the 2nd of January now, so you're looping over the 2nd of January rows, it is checking the next date. This is pretty nice, right? So if that's the case, if my close is above my target profit or my close is below my stop loss, I'm simply appending the price. And then I'm setting my position flag to false again. And very important, I'm breaking the loop as soon as I sold. Because as explained in the previous video, I only want to have one single trade per day. So I'm breaking and I'm done for the day. So if we're executing that and don't mess up with the variable names, of course, then our strategy is being backtested. And while this is running, I can already do some data manipulations to my buying and selling values to create my profit and loss calculation. So I'm creating a data frame out of the buying and selling prices, ending up with a data frame like this. So these are the dates, and these are the buying prices, and these are the selling prices. So I simply can assign my columns, which are those integer values, to my trade dates list, and getting my trades like this. So I have the dates here. Then I'm setting my index, currently integer index, to just buy and sell. Have it like this. And of course, this is not a proper way to show that. I want to transpose the data frame and have it beautiful like this. So I have a buy column and I have a sell column. Just reassigning that quickly. And now we can easily do our profit and loss calculation. So let's call that P&L. Use sell minus buy, because this is the definition of a trade profit or loss. Then I have the absolute profit and loss of a trade. To have the relative profit and loss of a trade, I simply take the P&L relative here and put the profit and loss, the absolute profit and loss, in relation to what I bought the asset for. So this is my profit and loss, or my relative profit of the trade. So I usually do it like this. I do it in one step, in case you've watched my previous videos and you're confused now. It's mathematically the same. If I'm taking sell minus buy and set that into relation to my buy price, as you see, is the same, right? Just a relative profit calculation here. Okay, so I got my relative profits, and if I want to see how my strategy was performing, I can just accumulate those profits here by simply taking the P&L relative column here and add a 1, of course, first, and then accumulate the product. And with that, I made 22% profits on that strategy, which is quite remarkable, because think about it. If you pull the Bitcoin price, right, and see the development of the Bitcoin price, you see that the Bitcoin in this time horizon was dropping by roughly 50%, right? And the strategy would yield in a profitable return here. So in 22% profit instead of 50% loss, right? Well, you have 372 trades and you have to account for trading fees. But also on the one hand, on the other hand, you can trade Bitcoin for free, right? So yeah, but just to be sure, subtract maybe a bit of the profit here to have a realistic view. Now, I already did some parameter consideration, and I wanted to know what is happening if you change the get levels function and take, instead of the close, take the low as a reference, and the results are quite insane. So I'm just assigning that newly and let the loop run here and execute all this profit and loss calculation again. And now you see 63%, right? This is quite insane. So yeah, I think that's already it for this video. Of course, I'm highly interested in translating that to a trading bot. So if you're interested in that, you know what to do. It's very important. But other than that, let me know what you think about this in the comments below. And I thank you very much for watching and looking forward to see you in the upcoming videos. Bye bye.